Hi everyone. So we talked about doing a brief lecture on how to search articles. So I will do that and I will try to keep it pretty brief. So I can show you a couple different ways to do it, including the way that works seems to work best for me. So I just go to the BGSU homepage, Academics, and go to the library homepage. And here you have the summon search tool. And a lot of people really like this search tool, so I'm going to demonstrate it briefly. So for your special diet project, really consider that this is pretty open to you based on your interests. So if you have an interest and you are wondering how you can fit it into this project, just talk to me and we can try to talk about if that we can make it work. So this is kind of a wide open topic, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to examine the impact of glycemic index on diabetes control. So for Summon, this search tool that comes up just on the homepage of the library, you can just put in your search terms. So I'm going to put in glycemic index and type 2 diabetes. Now, the reason that Summon isn't my favorite is because you get so many search terms, but you can alter your search. So you can say, I only want peer reviewed articles, I only want journal articles. You can say, I only want them in the last, let's say, 3 years. And then you can just start to look at the most recent articles that come back. But sometimes there's just, even though you pick journal articles, it seems like you get other kinds of documents as well. And you can see that here we have almost 11,000 searches. So that could be an indication that you need to narrow your search. Um, or it could be an indication that you should put more restrictions on it. So I might say, pick a specific subject term here. So for this one, how about I'll pick glucose because it's relevant to our topics, and so on and so forth. So as you're going through, so that's how you can search for articles in Summon. Now I'm going to go into more detail about how to search with PubMed because that's kind of my favorite way to do things. And then I'll show you at that point how you can kind of vet articles. Let's go to BGSU homepage again. There we go. Okay, so you go to academics, go to the libraries page, go to all databases, then I go to P, and I like PubMed because it's all peer-reviewed, legitimate articles. It gives you, it does give you all of the articles you need, but it has a very specific way of searching so that you get a more targeted search. So I'm going to go to PubMed and I'm going to connect. And one thing I like to do right when I get into PubMed is to go to this mesh database and open a link in a new tab. And what a mesh database is it's these keywords that PubMed uses to screen all the peer-reviewed journals. So let's go to that one first. So first I want to look at type 2 diabetes. And it's just going to tell you what is the term that they use. They use diabetes mellitus, comma, type 2. So that's going to be one of my keywords. So I'm going to try to remember that. And then I'm also going to try for glycemic index. Okay, and I see that that is a search term, glycemic index. So I'm going to put these two in here. So you can put in your search terms, diabetes. And again, you can do this with any subject. Type 2, I think is how they had it. Now I forget. Okay, they have the actual number in there. Type 2. Okay, and then I do a connector word. I put and in caps, and I'm going to put glycemic index. Now, instead of and, you could also put or. You could put, and you can make these search terms really complex. So you could put type 2 diabetes um, or type 1 diabetes and put those in parentheses, and glycemic index. So just kind of play with it. And if you want, there's also probably tutorials on YouTube that could be helpful. But for right now, let's just do this: diabetes type 2 and glycemic index. See what we get. Okay, so you can see that it's a much narrower scope, and they're looking at much fewer resources in PubMed. That's why I like it, but it's still 2,500 articles. Not going to happen. So what we need to do when we're searching for original articles, if you want in your beginning search, you can include review articles. That's completely fine, just so you can kind of get a better idea about the topic. But um, but for this, we want original articles only. Now, for my first thing I'm going to do to narrow my scope is I'm going to put within the last 5 years because I want really recent ones. I'm going to put full text because I want, well, you could put full text, but even articles that you don't get full text to, um, we can usually order through the library, but I'm going to start with that. And then because in nutrition, and especially in our topic, we really want to focus on human findings when we're talking about application to practice, I'm going to put in human. Now this tells me that I still have way too big of a way too broad of a scope because I have so many articles here still. So let's start looking through them and start seeing if I can get an idea of how I can narrow my scope a little bit more. So this is so one thing that I kind of say is if you don't understand the words in the title, or if it absolutely seems not connected, just don't waste your time. Just go past it. Okay, so management of pregnant women with type 2 diabetes and consequences of their fetal offspring. Now, this is really interesting, but what I was thinking more of was dietary and how to counsel people with type 2 diabetes. So that's kind of another, so I think I'm going to put in that search term too. Either put in diet or nutrition. Let's see what my mesh term is. Diet. Let's try diet. Okay, look, so it really narrowed my search down and it actually gave me 4 articles that were like extremely pertinent to my search. So for these are the ones that I'm going to look at first. Effects of legumes as part of a glycemic index and CVD factors. Effects of fiber on glycemic index. So that seems kind of interesting. Improvement of dietary quality with the aid of glycemic index in Asians with type 2 diabetes. So I think one that looks interesting to me is fiber and glycemic index diet. You don't have to do anything like that. But so now I'm kind of seeing like reading through this abstract and I'm seeing, okay, this looks pretty interesting to me. And this may be a really long drawn out process for you. It may not be as easy as this one. But here I'm looking at and I'm seeing, okay, what are they looking at? Oh, and this is actually a review article. So I don't want review articles. So, but I am getting in a picture that I think I want to do fiber. So I'm going to kind of back out this diet one, and I'm going to put in fiber instead. And let's, we can double check the mesh term. Dietary fiber. Okay, so that's the one that came up. But down here you can see, that's the one that came up specifically. But down here you can see that we have 37 articles. And that's actually a really good number to start with. Because we can kind of go through the articles, see which ones are the most pertinent, but it's not completely overwhelming. And anything more than about 100 articles, I try to kind of narrow my scope through the search so I can get more of a specific scope. So here I have high fiber and low starch intakes are associated with circulating intermediate biomarkers of type 2 diabetes among women. So that sounds kind of interesting. So maybe I'm going to mark that and say I want to come back to that and look at the abstract. And then I kind of just go through and do a cursory glance of what articles might work, and then I mark them. Validation of food insulin index, so that's kind of interesting, but not quite what I was thinking. I was thinking more I wanted a glycemic index. So here's glycemic index load and glycemic response, but you can see, okay, so this says an international consensus from the International Carbohydrate Consortium. So I can see that this isn't really going to be an original article. This is a consensus article. So what I want is an original article. So let's try this one. A high glycemic index, low fiber breakfast affects postprandial blood glucose, insulin, and ghrelin. That looks interesting, and I can see that it's a 2015 article, so it's got the most recent information and it's most pertinent. So I always try to tend to get the more recent articles. And as I'm reading through this, I'm like, okay, I think that this is something that I'm interested in. So what they're looking at is how breakfast with different glycemic index affects different outcomes. So this is really interesting. So let's say that I want to mark this on my articles too. Okay. And then another interesting thing you could do is say, I want similar articles to this so that you can kind of get your narrow scope. So let's see if I can get similar articles. And this gives 141 articles, but you can see that they're a little bit more specific. So this is saying like glycemic index at a certain point. So what we're going to try to do, yes, so look at here, we have a high protein breakfast induces greater insulin. But again, okay, this insulinotropic peptide responses, that may not be exactly what I'm looking for. So it's not that they have to all be about breakfast at this point if you had chosen that article, but you want to keep the scope kind of narrow so that you're not explaining so many things. The more narrow the scope, the easier your paper is going to be. So for instance, if I was talking about high glycemic index in general, that might be a really hard topic to cover. And I might not get representative articles. But when I narrow my scope, say to like breakfast or something like that, or to fiber at breakfast or something like that, then I can write the paper in a more targeted way and it's going to be easier to write. Also, I'll have fewer articles so that I can guarantee that I have a better representation of the articles that are there. So if I'm picking from 800 articles and I'm picking 6 to review, well, that might not be representative of all the findings. Instead, if I get a really much more narrow scope with this, for instance, fiber one, then I can get a more narrow scope. The paper is going to be easier to write. The more metabolism is going to be more easy to explain. So look at this. Taking a low glycemic multi-nutrient supplement at breakfast improves glycemic control. So that might be pertinent. And I might go through and check all of the ones that are pertinent and then try to narrow it down even more. So use this, so just kind of play around with it. Don't expect that you're going to get all of your articles in the like 10 minutes that I just took. Kind of play around with it. And if you're really not sure about what you want your topic to be, start with a broad topic that you're interested in. Look at the articles and then try to narrow it down from there once you see what's in the literature. So I hope that that little demonstration was helpful, and just let me know if you have any questions. I will post this on the on Canvas in the assignments module underneath the in the assignments module. I won't put it underneath anything. All right, thank you and have a good day. Bye.